Welcome back to the Erin Chronicle. My name is Erin, and today we're going to be talking about day 2 of New York Fashion Week. So before we get into it, because we have a lot to cover today, be sure to like and subscribe right down below so you can find out the next time that I post a new video. So let's get right into it. So the first designer that we're going to get into is actually more like 1 and 2. If I'm looking over here, I'm looking at my notes and some of the pieces that I want to talk about. So our first one that we are going to be talking about is Marchesa and Marchesa Notte. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But Marchesa was the first designer, and they showed at 9 a.m. And they showed a lot of evening wear, very feminine, floral pieces. Because remember, we're looking at pieces for spring. That's going to kind of be that would be the theme for this New York Fashion Week. So my favorite piece from Marchesa is going to be look 8. I'm going to put it up here. Just this beautiful pink gown with some ruching on it. It makes me look forward to when we can go back out and go to parties. So then on the other side of that, we have the Marchesa Notte. And so this is still very beautiful floral patterns with some really pretty long dresses. Again, looking forward to the time that we can go out. I feel like this, especially throughout the week, we see a lot of escapism is what they're calling it. So mental escapism, trying to get away from kind of what is going on in the world around us. I feel like some designers continue to have it rooted in reality, where some just kind of are floating off, hoping for something else, while some actually address what is going on. But the Marchesa, it's bright pastels, floral prints, a lot of ruffles, long gowns, very traditional to what the house stands for. So they showed at, both of them showed at 9 a.m. So now let's go into the 9:30, and this was the Xue Gao designer, and like I said, she was at 9:30. I thought her looks were very interesting because she kind of took this idea of working from home suit and mixed it with kind of a kimono, pajama, floral print look, while still being extremely tailored with the tie-off on the side. It was very, the patterns were against each other, but they still went together. And she did both men and women's look. So I've also, I guess this is something else that you will see will be the work from home. So we're not getting dressed up in our suits every day, throwing our heels on. More than likely, we're throwing, this season it was Birkenstocks and a jogger set, hopping on our Zoom calls. So some designers went with more of the traditional look, where some addressed it like Snow here, with a new take on it that is still a professional vibe, but you can show your personality. So at 10 o'clock, we have Carolina Herrera. Now, I thought hers was, I loved her collection. I really enjoyed where they had the socially distanced fashion show, which was at the Williamsburg Savings Bank. And this one was, I just thought that the backdrop really set the tone for her really pretty clothes that she did. And these designers who are seeing an uptick in women buying, we'll just say, maybe clothing for special occasions. You have to think of it for like intimate weddings, family gatherings, and she has one of the designers who is seeing this uptick. Now, her first look is this beautiful black sheath, little black dress that comes to a little mid-thigh with this fanning deal right here at the top. And that was kind of her motif for the collection, these really statement shoulders, fanning in front of the face with some ruching, with light pinks and black and whites. So I also like the fact that a lot of these designers are deciding to go with more flats versus high heels, which just, I think, is a reflection of the time that we're in. Most people are now going for your flats and not your heels. Quite frankly, since all this has been going on, I haven't put on heels for anything. Right now, it's more comfort over anything. So that was at 10 o'clock. Now, it's interesting to see some of these designers decided to do lookbooks, so they just pretty much just showed some designs. Others had actually put a collection together and were shown on models. Some did it with a fashion show, some did it with pictures. So it's been interesting to see how everyone has dealt with the situation at hand. Okay, so that was 10 o'clock. So let's move to 11 a.m. And so at 11 a.m. we had a private policy, and they did both men and women's looks. I felt the looks would be very industrial, kind of like you're fighting the city jungle, so to speak. The harnesses I thought were interesting that the men were wearing were actually from recycled CDs. So she's trying to mix being sustainable with being fashion forward. So they had this great black trench coat that was a very strong look for the men. So far we haven't discussed any male looks yet. And I also enjoyed the fact that it was an inclusively, the models were inclusive as well. So that was at 11. At 11:30 we have PH5, and PH5, they were looking to find hope for 2021. And I thought this was interesting. She came back to her home, which is in Australia, which I don't know if we remember a few months ago, they actually had, remember the forest fires. So she wanted to talk about forest fires and about the indigenous people who live in Australia. So she invited, hello, you're saying hello. She knows that Miss Peaches made her YouTube debut, which you can see the video here, so she wanted to come say hello. But anyways, so she wanted to highlight these two things, which were the fires and the indigenous people. So she invited these indigenous women to come and actually talk about how they deal with fire safety within their tribe. So that's what her short film was about. I also thought it was interesting that she wanted to highlight how her knitwear can be worn by all different body shapes. So you notice that the women that she is showing in her collection are not just models. They're actual women who, different body sizes, but they are all able to wear the same knitwear because it has such good give and pull to it. So this was also her first season showing handbags, which I thought was really cute, being shown with the kangaroo wearing her handbags. So she dealt with a lot of things just within this short video, talking about fires and how to deal with them, giving highlight to the indigenous women, while also showing that women have all different body sizes and shapes, but we can all feel fabulous and really show off these clothes. It's not just that we need to show it in the models. And I thought this knitwear was really pretty. I liked the coral motifs. She also, Australia has the Great Barrier Reef, so I thought it was a really good nod to her home country. And I just love seeing these strong women come in with great mindset when it comes to being environmentally friendly. And I mean, would you not want a handbag that was modeled by a kangaroo? Like, come on, people. It's absolutely adorable. So that high is PH5. We've had a snowstorm the last few days, and whenever it is really cold, Miss Meow Meow runs from one end of the apartment back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So she might be making more appearances today. So, well, back to some more fashion. So now that was at 11:30. So let's talk about at 12:30. This is Jonathan Simkhai, and I thought his collection was just absolutely beautiful, floral, feminine, springtime. I loved the slip maxi dresses that he did. mixed with these really beautiful blues and greens, kind of a vintage look to it. The collection was shown on the top of a New York City rooftop, again, socially distanced. He was not one of the designers to show masks on the models, so it has to be socially distanced. But I thought his looks were really appropriate for work from home. You could have one of these beautiful dresses while throwing a really cute blazer on top of it, and you're ready to go while being comfortable at the same time. You could also, once it's possible, slip and move into your date night after working. So, like I said, I felt like the colors were kind of a new take on floral spring colors. So that is our 12:30. So let's move to our 1:30. So Wolk Morais, which is Brian Wolk and Claude Morais, used the short film method to show their collection. And their collection was actually filmed over 26 nights in LA. And what they did was they had the garments in a garment bag. They drive up to the model's house. They would hand them the garment bag, tell them to get dressed, and they would do the full photo shoot from their car. So they would never get out of the car. They would not interact with the model other than handing them the garment bag. And so they made this completely thinking about the big Rona, and even dealing with the big fires happening right now in California. We're dealing with in Colorado too. So that I thought this was it was a great take on what on the short film setup. And we have had some snow, so if you hear some kids screaming outside, they're enjoying snow today. But so back to what we were talking about. So their real speciality is tailoring, and so this collection still got to show their tailoring, but a little bit more laid back. I love this suit with tie and this light lilac shirt underneath it. It was just, this was one of my favorite looks, along with this skirt suit set. But they still showed a great pajama set with a brocade look. They still showed pieces that you can use for work from home. And they just really adapted to the needs, not only of the pandemic and how they can't show a short fashion show, but they were also dealing with the fires in Hollywood. I mean, 2020 has just been crazy. Okay, so that was our 1:30. So now let's go to our 2 o'clock, which is Veronica Beard. Now, she usually does more high fashion, work type looks. But since we're not at work, so she has to adapt and do some work from home. So she did some really pretty separates, along with some pretty linen dresses. Can't talk today. But I thought the color palette was very unique as compared to some of the other designers who kind of took the spring concept very literal. I thought her looks were very easy, worn on work from home, or you could stop out and go to the grocery store. And then I love the fact that it was shot in this beautiful field of wild flowers, which just gets you ready for spring. That, yes, it is kind of escapism, but, you know, we're out in nature. We're not just saying that we don't dealing with the issues at hand. So her collection, I felt, was very feminine, easy to wear, maybe one of the easiest to wear collections of Fashion Week that is accessible to someone other than a fashionista. So that is our 2 o'clock. So now let's move to our 3 o'clock. And this time slot was actually a split between Dennis Basso and Maisie Wilen. There's not really much to report with Dennis Basso. His looks are very traditional, not very fashion forward, but they're completely, you can customize them however you want, which I thought was an interesting take on the looks. It's kind of a couture idea, but, you know, great pieces, especially for intimate family gatherings, your high-end fashionista. a really great collection. But the one that really is very interesting is the Maisie Wilen looks. And hers, I had a lot of respect for her because she said, I took a lot of inspiration on how my customer is wearing the garment. She said that they're wearing it in ways that I never thought was possible, where I feel like a lot of designers kind of take if the customer doesn't wear it literally, they kind of take it personally, where, I think as designers, you're giving people clothing to play with, and they should be able to show their personality through the clothes that they're wearing. So that I had a lot of respect for Wilen when she was discussing this in the interview. Again, you can get all of my sources on my website at the Chronicle. I have it linked down below, but you can see all of my sources, little write-ups, and each individual picture as well. So her particular collection, she wanted to kind of play around with clothing. And I feel like she was one of the designers who kind of, the fact that we couldn't have an in-person show and really interact with the fabrics, the models, and the clothing, you have to take it as a one-dimensional thing off of the video. So it kind of inhibits the collection a little bit, but she still was able to play around with some really interesting textiles, colors, backdrops. In her particular collection, she played with some different cuts that we've usually seen, like this particular dress, which was look 1. It was really pretty pink, but it's cut on the bias and has a little peep versus where it normally would be towards the center. But again, really pretty color choices and just a lot of respect for her and how she sees her customer. So, yes, I like it. Are you enjoying yourself? Yeah. At 3:30, we are now going to see Adeam, which is a Japanese designer. And she showed the collection in Tokyo, which is her childhood home. And she was talking about how she had been spending pandemic in her childhood bedroom. So she runs a global business between New York and Japan. So I think it was nice for her to get to be home for a bit and not have to split herself as much. But she showed it in a 1881 built traditional hall and gardens. So I just thought it was just a really beautiful nod to Japanese culture and the ease that we're looking for in this work from home environment. Now, she took a new modern approach to our traditional Japanese kimono that can be worn both outside and inside. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 type of garment. So I like that she did something that was traditional but in a more modern sense. And I really loved the khaki look of the collection, really easy to pair with other things with nice pops of red. So I thought this was a really pretty collection, really set in a wonderfully historic location as well. Okay, so now that we have gotten to 3:30, it is almost 5 o'clock, which means we are almost done with day 2. So at 5 o'clock, we are going to see N.Hoolywood collection. And this is a men's collection, and he was inspired by U.S. Space Command in the International Space Station. And he decided to do cargo pants that looked like the British Army training. So you're going to see a lot of pale grays, khakis that are in separates and kind of camouflage separates. And he started thinking about how does clothing hold up in space. So his pants and his jackets that's how he designed it with that in mind. So that is our 5 o'clock, and at 6, we are going to be looking at Zero+Maria Cornejo. Now, I like seeing this collection because the action design masks for the clothes. And they said, as a quote, that showing a maskless show is just a missed opportunity. That it's a failure of grasping an opportunity and showing their clothes with matching masks as well. So she thinks of her clothes is in terms of, are they wearable? For every day she wears her clothes on the subway commute from Brooklyn to New York City every single day. So her clothing really has to be wearable for the average person, which I just thought was a great take from a designer. And I thought that she did this collection for the city of New York City. So it's a great nod to a city. I liked the color. I feel like I'm saying this a lot. I guess spring is really my season. I love the colors, but there are a lot of navies and a new take on denim. So with a white t-shirt look. So again, a little bit more laid back, wearable. I could definitely see this wearing on the subway to work in New York City. Okay, so now we're going to be going to our 7:30, which is Libertine. And so they wanted it kind of reminds me of, oh gosh, I can't think of the term for the, but I'll put a picture of the plate. But that's what this particular collection reminded me of. And he did this collection, a lot of it by hand, on his mother's 1950s Singer sewing machine. Just the thought of doing, there'll be another designer that we will look at a little bit later on, but he went to the 99-cent store and hand brocade most of his collection. The thought of doing a high-end fashion collection by hand, by yourself, because you do not have access to the workroom or your staff, shows great ingenuity and imagination on the designer's part. But anyways, Libertine is actually a 20-year-old design label. And so he was kind of wanting to take a fresh look on some of his old designs. So they showed some suits, suit jackets, again with the little tie like we had seen earlier in the day, with some really bold prints that are a really fresh take on, like we said, a 20-year label. He is reinvigorating it. He doesn't want to just stick with what he has. So that is our 7:30. Now we're going to get to our 9 o'clock, which is the Imitation of Christ. They wanted to show a really strong female, and so she went to a skate park and saw that the really strong women that were out there just crushing it at the skate park. They fall down, get back up, get going, fall down, do it all over again. So that is what her idea was for this particular collection, which I think is very in keeping with what we're seeing right now as a society. So with that in mind, we see in her short film that there's a lot of skaters on the skateboard, showing her clothing in motion. We see a continuation of tie-dye, which we saw that was a big trend this year, but it's also a new take on the sports jersey as kind of a fashion piece, paired with just your run-of-the-mill sneakers, your New Balances, your Adidas, whatever you have in your closet, you just throw on with Imitation of Christ looks. These looks will be available for immediate release on The Real Real. I'll link the video right here, but you can also find a secondhand other, I think Burberry, Stella McCartney's on there, a few more, but I'll link the video here that you also can see what other labels are partnering with The Real Real to get their looks directly to the consumer. So, what was your look? What was your favorite look? Let me know down in the comments below. If you would like, again, to have a more in-depth look at day 2 of Fashion Week, feel free to visit my website, and it's called the Chronicle. And day 3 and 4 will be out very soon. Thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to like and subscribe right down below. And I hope you have a great day and a great rest of your week. And bye now.